and driving up prices. Your local cooperative is working hard to develop solutions. You can do your part, too, by taking simple steps to make your home more energy efficient. Because together, we have the power to make a difference.
This message brought to you by Cumberland Electric Membership Corporation.
Hi, this is Mike LaFever with the LaFever Quartet. Let me encourage you to download the WSGI app for iPhone and Android so you can listen to good old gospel music 24 hours a day on 1100 WSGI, Springfield, Tennessee.
You can only cut it once, so measure twice.
One street over there's a life I could have known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold, but things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wonder what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Hello, hello. Good morning. Welcome to it. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm Eugene LaVern, and yes, this is One Street Over. What's going on One Street Over from where you live in? We are here in Robertson County, so we are blessed and highly favored. That's kind of paraphrasing the words of our county mayor, Mayor Billy Vogel. And, it's a political season. We're not going to get into all of that. I hope you're paying attention to who's running for our county mayor and making wise decisions. I have been watching forums and doing all those things. We're not going to get into the debate here because we just don't want to open that can of worms. But I will say, Bill Jones is here, and he is running for county commissioner. We'll just leave it at that, and good luck with that, sir. And he'd be my county commissioner, so there you go. But he is our historian. And when did you get started being interested in history? When this became
I never was until the late 1990s.
Okay.
And how it got started, my grandmother lived about 3 miles out of town on a Darrell highway, and her father, which was my great-grandfather, built her a schoolhouse out in the woods on the Woodard property, which was about 300 acres then. Now it's been broken up. But I wanted to go out and find it. I had heard stories about it, had a picture of it, and so I went out there. I thought, well, she buried little mason jars type thing in the ground with notes from the students that she had. And I have a picture of the students and all that back in, early 1900s. And she was born in 1876. So she went to college, graduated from Peabody in Nashville, which I haven't heard of another woman in Robertson County graduated from college at that time, but maybe there was. Yeah, I haven't found
very
her.
Notable.
But she wanted to be a teacher, and her daddy didn't want her to leave to go somewhere and be a teacher, so he just built her a school. Three rooms, and it's still standing. And
I really want to go see that.
I took out there a shovel, a metal detector, and a pick, a hoe, to find these jars. Well, when I got out there, I found out someone had used that site as a horseshoe business. And there were horseshoes and nails everywhere, so that I didn't do any good with the metal detector.
Right.
But that started my quest on learning about it, and it just got bigger and bigger. And I thought, Robertson County is just blessed with heavy history, just really good, unique history. Right. And people we don't know about, and I'll tell you about some today, that came from here that did great things. But that's how I got started, and then it just I got with Yolanda Reed and up at the archives, and she guided me through stuff, and I'd run through the library and went through books I read and read and read, so started writing things down, and I'm just, Yolanda is so far ahead of me in knowledge and information. It's amazing what she has. So that got me started, and it just the interest. If you're not interested, you don't remember things. And I was very interested, so I remembered and wrote down things. I've got files at home, filing cabinets full of stuff, and I don't know what anybody. I told my wife, I said, just I don't know what you want to do with it when I die. Just somebody might want it. I don't know. Some of it just
we plan on hanging on to you for much, much longer, Bill. We just the information that you bring, and I have said this to you before. I really want to see that schoolhouse. I want to go out there so bad.
I've got several pictures of it.
Do they do anything with the house? I mean,
it's lost. You can't even hardly get to it. It's in a deep wooded area. It used to be a road to it because I remember when I was a child walking down the road to it, and it's all grown up now.
Would they let us go down there and look at it?
Well, Win Woodard owns the property, and I talked to him the other day that I wanted to go back again. He said, "Oh yeah, just let me know," but it's snaky right now. I meant to go when it was cold, and some of my cousins wanted to go, and we never could find a time that everybody was free, so we didn't do it. And it happens every year.
I'm not afraid of snakes, but just put your boots on and go for it.
I can identify several, but
And my husband wouldn't go near it.
Yeah,
he would not go near it. It was so funny. I had, and I'll tell this, and then we'll get on with what you're doing. But we're super excited about the theater, being redone in downtown. And we were driving down 49, and we passed where they're also Michael's doing the drive-in theater.
On 431, you mean?
Oh, is it on 431? I thought it was on 49.
431.
It's on 431? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm not very, I don't pay attention where I am. I'm terrible. But anyway, so there's the new drive-in theater. And I said something to my husband. I said, I know that's very nostalgic for a lot of people, but it's not really for me. I said, I have very vague memories of going to the drive-in theater a few times, but not to the degree. So there's so many, I'm excited about it, but there's a lot of people that's like, I can't wait for it to get open. He's like, oh, I can't wait. Yeah. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. He said, we went to the drive-in all the time. And he said, the first time I went, my brother, Ronnie, had to babysit him, and he was like 9 years old, and he had forgotten, and he had a date. So he took his baby brother with him on this date to the drive-in theater, and they watched this movie called Stanley. And he goes, look it up, and then you'll understand me better. And it was like this kind of a cult thing, cult classic type movie where this Vietnam veteran, I think, he was a mercenary who he would get vengeance for people by taking and attacking them with a snake. And so here he was about 9 years old, and he saw this snake as being this, and he goes, and he's terrified of snakes. I was like, well, now I understand, because when I was at that same age, I was down in the Everglades, holding snakes and all that kind of stuff. And so, nonetheless, quite a different experience. But anyway, I digress. So who are we going to talk about today, Bill?
I've got several things. Who
have you brought to tell us about?
Some unique stuff. Now, for one, do you remember, and you're not old enough to remember this, but there was a man named Cowboy Copas, country music singer. And,
not really.
He was along the same line as Patsy Cline.
Oh, yeah.
And those,
You figure Patsy Cline, I think, passed before I was born. Maybe.
Okay.
I was born in 60. I mean, I heard the legend
you were born
of
in the
Patsy
60s,
Cline.
right?
I was born in the 60s.
Yeah,
Patsy Cline was legendary as I grew up, and I learned Patsy Cline songs because I sang as a kid. But, a
lot of these people, country music people, I had a cousin, actually it's my mother's cousin, and it was my grandmother's sister's son. His name was Harry Draper. Mm-hmm. He came from here, went to that little Woodard school I was telling you about out on the Darrell Highway, and between the Darrell Highway and Woodard Road. He was a manager of the Ryman Auditorium for 40 years.
Wow.
And I've got his files. I've got all his
You're
stuff.
kidding.
And pictures. He's got pictures of himself and Maurice Chevalier, Liberace, just a lot. And he went to their homes and all this stuff, and they were good buddies.
Does the Ryman Auditorium know you have this stuff?
No, I don't think so.
Can I let them know?
Yeah.
I mean, they need to know. That's incredible archive material.
I've got letters, back, here. Now, people don't write letters. They do it on email. Or they'll send
my
documents to
goodness.
sign on email. Well, I've got these letters. He wrote people trying to sign them on to come to the Grand Ole Opry
goodness.
House and perform. Then he left Nashville and went to Jackson, Tennessee, and helped form a building down there for conventions. Then he went to Sarasota, Florida, and they built a new building down there, and he started that and ran that until he retired, and he ended up in a retirement home over in Nashville before he died. He's buried here in Springfield.
Wow.
But the funny thing, he was a really good violin player.
Okay.
He took lessons from people in Europe that were very famous violinists. And I got a picture of him and Jackie Guthrie standing together I think it's in Italy, of a tour they had over there. And the funny thing, though, he developed Alzheimer's in his later years, and he was down in a nursing home in Adams at the time. And he didn't know me. I think he might have recognized my mother, but he had his violin there, and she'd hand it to him. He'd play it just perfectly.
Isn't that
That's
something?
amazing.
Isn't that
Just
amazing?
Yeah. But anyway, he was a picture taker. I got boxes full of slides. I've never processed or looked at them, actually, all over Europe and everywhere he went. He was World War II, he trained fighter pilots. He was a pilot.
How did you end up with his stuff? Did you buy it at an auction?
Well, there was a lady, Margaret Parker, who was a secretary over at Opryland to Mr. Irving Wall, who was head of WSM, and she was Harry Draper's girlfriend. They traveled together a lot, and she had all the stuff of his. When he developed Alzheimer's, she ended up with him, so she kept bringing me. When she came out here, she would bring me all the stuff, and then Harry and her would come to our Christmas dinners, Thanksgiving dinners, at my mother's house or wherever, they always were here. So Margaret realized that I was into this, so she brought it all to me, and I don't have time to go through it. It's so much stuff.
Charlie Manos is the voice of the Grand Ole Opry right now.
Yeah.
He and I work together. I will reach out to him with your permission and let him know you have this
that's fine.
material, because I feel like that's
Better
something,
somebody else than me, because I'm not going to do anything with it.
Okay, and Charlie, he teases that he's getting older and all that, but I think he's going to be stay at
so long
work for a
somebody doesn't-
long time.
I don't want anybody to throw it away.
No. He's very into the history and all of that. But if he's not the one to go through it, because he does the morning show and works at the Opry, but he would know who it needs to go to. And if you're interested in talking to somebody, but let me call Charlie. And Charlie, oh my goodness, did you hear all that? Goodness,
right now I can't work with it. I got so much going on.
Yeah, you got so much going on with the election
this,
and stuff.
election thing.
Wow.
But
that's going to be over here, and
May
'cause your
5th.
election May 5th.
May
Yours is
5th.
May 5th, right?
Yeah.
And
there won't be any. Everybody's running as Republicans, so they're not going to be in the general election in August.
Yeah, because there's no
They already won.
opposition to it. Because this is an extremely conservative county. On that note, too, I think the primary for governor is something like August 3rd. I think.
Well, right around in there, August
It's
3rd
in August.
through the 6th or somewhere in there. I don't know.
And again, that's another one that you're not likely. And I know all my
Well,
my
this
friends
ballot is going to be full of people.
Oh my goodness, it's packed.
I hate to see that, but
I love
people.
John Rose. He's running, and
I talked
think
to him
he's a
last
great
Saturday.
Candidate. I may, again, we got to stay out of it, but because it would just be that's all you would hear if we start delving into that. It would be equal time, and that would be all you would hear.
Yeah.
Because these are public airways, guys. They're even though it's social media and all that you see a lot of the times, there is a terrestrial signal, so we have to be careful. But because we don't want to get into that. But nonetheless, until
Now-
you get through that election,
I want to mention this.
gonna be busy.
I am a writer for the Robeson County Connection.
Right.
Every week I have something in there, and I will have stuff on elections here in a couple of weeks.
about past ones or
Yeah.
things like
What-
that, historical
yeah.
significance.
Yeah,
and
I
stuff.
think you'll like that. I write about
will.
6 weeks ahead of time, so I have a hard time remembering what I got coming up
It's
next
like,
week.
what's on
Next,
on
I'll
deck?
tell you what
What's
is
on
next
deck?
week is about hermits that live in the gardens. Yeah, I try to think up some
Okay.
unusual thing. You'll like that. I don't think too many people know about it.
What?
Hermits who live in gardens, and they're hired by the
idea.
people to live there. You've seen these little gnomes. Yeah, well, it's tied in with that. But anyway, that's my next week's article.
That's going to be fascinating.
I wish more people read this stuff because
That's really
I
interesting.
spend a lot of time working it up. But anyway, that's next week, and
That's
then I
very
think
cool.
the next one, maybe in the next one, is about elections and
Okay.
how we did it and all that
Very
kind of
cool.
stuff. I was on the election commission for 11 years, back in the early 70s,
Okay.
and I have a lot of stories
I'll bet you do.
about that.
Yeah. People.
I
get-
remember this one guy who ran for office, and he didn't get elected.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he came in madder than a wet hen. I know that
Y'all cheated.
the election is rigged, and you all didn't count it right, and blah blah blah. So it was all paper ballot then. So we shouldn't have done this, but he put so much pressure on us. We finally, and it wasn't that many, pulled out. It was a little town in Robeson County. Pulled out the ballots, and we pulled them all
let 'em
out,
count 'em.
and then we always tore off a corner and put them in another box. We had to match all the corners together.
Oh my goodness.
And we showed him he didn't win. He said, that's just not, I just don't believe that because more people told me they voted for me than I had votes. I was
Well,
sitting there going,
yeah.
ooh,
People will tell you a
you
lot
didn't
of
get
things.
elected.
People will tell you a lot of things.
But
and,
anyway,
so
some interesting things about
Interesting.
elections in Robeson County.
Okay. Well, very good. But now this gentleman that you're talking
Okay.
about, tell me his name again. With
Cowboy Copus.
So-
He was a country music singer along the same time as Patsy Cline
Okay.
and several others.
And you said, so Cowboy Copus is, okay, but that's not the guy that was local here that was.
No, he wasn't from here.
Okay, so what is the man's name again that you have all these records about the Opry? What is his name?
Oh,
again?
Harry Draper.
Harry Draper.
Now, there's a lot of kinfolks from the Draper line living around here.
Okay,
A lot
Harry
of them.
Draper.
Yeah.
So you have all this archival
I'll
stuff.
talk
from the
about him
Opry.
sometime if you want to.
Okay.
but
Yeah, I'm curious. Like,
I got a picture of him with Sitting Bull. He went out to South Dakota and got this picture
wow.
made. He was just that way. I mean, he traveled all over the place.
interesting.
Europe and all over,
Interesting.
He just
Okay.
sort of like me, curious about everything.
Yeah. So we need to hear more about him for sure. But I want to talk to you
Anyway,
about the Opry. About
I'm
him.
sure there's some people listening that's older than you are and older than me that remember Cowboy Copus.
Okay.
I do. But,
Okay.
he was back in the 50s and
Okay.
in the Opry event. But what's so interesting, I found that Cowboy Copus' daughter, Kathy Copus, wanted to marry the man who was Cowboy Copus's. He was a singer also and played in the band, but he became a pilot. He learned from a man in Nashville to fly planes, and this same man taught another country music singer how to fly. And when this plane crashed that had Patsy Cline in it, Cowboy Copus was in that group, and along with two other. Well, but what I'm getting off subject here a
So
little bit.
Cowboy Copus died with Patsy Cline?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So Cowboy Copus had a daughter named Kathy. Kathy wanted to marry a man, and his name was. I'll say there was another singer called Randy Hughes in there. What is that guy's name? Hank Shaw Hawkins was also on the plane. He was a country music guy. Patsy Cline, Cowboy Copus, Hank Shaw Hawkins died, and Randy Hughes was the pilot. Randy Hughes was manager of Patsy Cline.
Okay.
And Randy Hughes wanted to marry Cowboy Copa's daughter, which she was 16 years old. And at the time in Tennessee, that was illegal. Not in Alabama, but but in Tennessee, that's illegal. So Cowboy Copas had to write a letter to the, she wanted to get married here. I remember a long time ago, people would come to Springfield to get married because they could do it real quick. They had to have a blood test. They would go across the street from the courthouse on the south side to Dr. Wilkerson's office and get a blood test, come back, and they could get married in the courthouse on Saturday. And usually somebody like was a magistrate, they call them the commissioners now,
Right.
They had the authority to marry people, and it's usually somebody around there that would marry them. One of them was Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones, this is not during this time, but later, Bobby Jones was a county commissioner, and what he would do is a sideline. He sat in the court around the courthouse waiting for people to come in that wanted to get married, and he would marry them. So he didn't have a fee that he told, well, it's X amount of dollars. He would just say to him, says the husband would say, well, what do I owe you? And he said, well, whatever you think she's worth. Well, one time he said that to a guy, and the man reached in his pocket and pulled out some change and put it in his hand. He said, I never said that again.
That's really funny.
So anyway, offshoot here. Cowboy Copas, he died. Hank Shaw Hawkins died. Patsy Cline, and this Hughes guy. Well, Hughes was Patsy Cline's manager. Hughes wanted to marry Cowboy Copas' daughter, Kathy. And so I got a letter it's in the files up at the county archives. It says, Dear Sir, Kathy Copas has my permission to be married at any time she desires. Mrs. Lloyd Copas.
Oh, wow.
And it's signed and notarized in 1952. And I got a little picture of all the singers down there, but you can't see it on radio. But the thing is, she got married in Robeson County. She was living up until just a couple of years ago in Nashville. And I called her. When I found this in the file, I looked her up and I gave her a call. Well, of course, I'm sure she gets a lot of nutty calls,
That's wild.
So her son called me back. And he said, well, what is it you're calling about? And I said, well, I have a letter from Cowboy Copas allowing your mother to be married to Hughes,
Wow.
So I said, would you like it? And he said, yes. So I mailed him the original, and I kept a copy of it. And, no, the original's in the courthouse, in the archives, but I mailed him a copy of it, is what I did. And I thought she might like that. And he emailed me back, and he said, yes, she really appreciated that she remembered it. And if you look up Kathy Copas on the internet, there's a picture of her. She's a white-headed, real nice-looking lady.
Well, I want to point out so Randy Hughes is the guy who wanted to marry.
Hughes.
Okay, and she was 16.
Yeah.
He died at 34.
Yeah, he was the same, yeah.
Whoa!
There was another country music
That's
singer.
quite an age difference. And her name's Kathy Copas. Okay.
Yeah.
So he was 34 wanting to marry a 16-year-old?
Well, he died at 34, but they married before then.
Okay, so they were married?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not long, but they were married and had a child.
Okay. Okay, so I misunderstood that. Yeah, there she is.
Do you see a picture of her?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, that's her.
Okay. Okay,
And
so when did she...
I've got a picture of her when she was young.
Randy Hughes. Okay.
You can probably find it on the internet, a picture of her when she was a singer, a country music singer also. Oh, and here's her marriage record, February 19th, 1952, to Ramsey Hughes.
Okay.
That's at our county archives.
That's their marriage record.
Right, they got married here.
This is crazy. This
Like
is
a
cool
lot of
stuff.
people. A lot of people came here to get married because they could do it real quick.
Okay, so he was 23.
Yeah.
He was 23. I was
Right,
thinking,
right.
because when you first started telling the story, I thought, okay, they wanted to get married, and so I just misunderstood. Well, that's not as...
I'm glad you asked.
That's not as
Cleared it up.
shocking. 23 marrying a 16-year-old, back then, that was not unheard of. Interesting. So there's the marriage record right there. Isn't that crazy? The things you can find in archives, guys. Fascinating.
You got to know where to look
Especially-
because there's a lot of stuff
Yeah,
there. You just got to know
especially-
what you're looking for.
Yeah, but especially from in the 20th century, of course, you can find tons of stuff. Some in the 19th, but you get prior to that, and things become real sketchy. But in the last 100 years or so, there's a lot of information out there, and that is fascinating.
Well,
That
it's
is
so
fascinating.
interesting because there is stuff buried
Yeah.
in our county records,
Yeah.
at the courthouse, in our archives. Unless you're looking specifically for something, you're not going to see it.
Right.
And this one just happened to run across. That's what's so unique about
That
it.
is interesting. That is interesting. Now, these are people I had no idea of of any of this. This is stuff. This is new stuff. A lot of you and I'll talk about things, and there'll be stories you've told me before. This is brand new.
Yeah, I know.
I've never heard
I
this.
got a
one.
lot of brand new stuff.
Yeah, you do. You have so much stuff. Well, that is really fascinating.
That plane crashed in 1963 over near Camden, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one time I flew over there at Camden just to see
Where
what
they
it looked
crashed.
like.
Yeah.
And but anyway,
Interesting.
there was a pilot, and I have a record of it here somewhere, and it'd take me a little while to find it. The man who trained Hughes, and he was a good trainer. He was an official pilot trainer, and he was very hard, on people, so they learned to fly. But he also trained another country music singer, and both of them died in plane crashes.
Oh my.
Not any problem with him. It's just, unusual that both of them did. I think maybe they didn't have a lot of experience or something, because at the time, Patsy Cline, somebody has a picture of Patsy Cline in her last performance backstage, and her husband had called and wanted her to come home quick because they had a child sick, and he was tired of fooling with it. He wanted her to fool with it. So she was going to come back in a station wagon with some other country music stars, ride back wherever she was. I forget now. But this Hughes talked her into flying with him, said, we'll get you back quicker. So somebody said to her, the weather's not good. I wouldn't do this. She said, everybody's got to die sometime.
Wow.
When their time comes. I used to fly, and I took up a little young man who worked for me, and we flew around town, and he was scared to death. And I said, well, Gary, I said, why worry? If it's not your time to go, you won't go. He said, yes, sir, but it may be your time.
Oh, that's funny. That's quite funny. He doesn't want to get caught in the. That's funny.
Anyway,
That's
there was a movie on last night about John F. Kennedy Jr., and he was a brand new pilot, and he ventured into bad weather.
Yeah.
Bad weather causes a lot of airplane crashes, and people think they can get in there, and they can't. Same way, it was bad weather on this one, bad weather on the other country music man, I forget his name now, that died in a plane crash. And, it wasn't his training, it just took risk that he shouldn't have taken.
Yeah, for sure. And, that's the thing. I was terrified of flying as a child, but now I love it. I think it's wonderful. I
learned
don't
in the
have
Air
any
Force.
problem.
I got trained by a colonel in the Air
Yeah.
Force to fly. Even though I was in the weather service, I wanted to go in as a pilot, and they wouldn't let me.
Well, we had one of my daddy's brothers, Uncle Joe, they built a airstrip on his farm so he could fly planes.
There were several in Robson County like that.
And he was notorious for flying over family reunions and doing all that. And his son, Matthew, who is a chiropractor down in Florida, stayed interested in flight, and he flies. And so that's the only relatives I think that I know that fly.
Yeah.
But it's I tell everybody, you put a whole lot more risk when you get behind the wheel of your car. As a traffic reporter for as many years as I did it, I heard a lot of lives ended, listening to all those
They
traffic
all
reports.
have to take chances.
You better believe it. But we need to pause and do a break here, Bill. We want to talk about our wonderful sponsors that we have that support our program here, and we appreciate you so very much. Valor Mortgage is our newest sponsor. full-time sponsor. Had a chance to meet Chris Armentrout a few weeks ago when he came in to talk with our Veteran Service Office about the things that are going on with VA loans. There's a lot of things with VA loans. If you're a veteran, that you have access to that you may not realize. There are options. My veteran son is talking about investing in property and maybe even buying property up here adjacent to ours at some point before, we're trying to get them to move up here. They haven't decided they want to do that yet, but, and they live up around LaVern on the edge of Nashville. But, that's something as a veteran, he's got some options that I don't think he realized. And you're a veteran. You would have some options that you could talk to Chris about through the VA loan bill. And they don't just handle VA loans, of course. They handle FHA loans, conventional, jumbo financing, you name it, they can cover it. Experienced loan officers to help you. If you want to work with a mortgage company that will not treat you as a number, they will be your team to make sure that home ownership, business investments, refinance, whatever it might be, goes as smoothly as it possibly can. I love it when my guests talk about their experiences. Brian Pulley, when I started talking about Valor Mortgage, he was like, oh yeah, they took care of my refi, saved me, a couple of points on interest, and it was absolutely effortless. If we're saying something that appeals to you and you want to know just how much home you can buy before you get out there and start shopping, reach out to Valor Mortgage. They're ready to serve. You can call them at 615-671-9178, 615-671-9178, or you can go to valor.mortgage, VALOR.mortgage, and get pre-approved today. Again, all those options out there. If you want to have a lender you can trust, buy with confidence, buy with Valor. Valor Mortgage, NMLS number 1210804, DBA of Encore Lending Group, NMLS 1249911, equal housing lender, subject to credit approval, rates and terms subject to change without notice, not a commitment to lend. Valor Mortgage, let them know U-Turn sent you. All right, Mr. Bill Jones.
Okay, another thing I want to mention because is Baldwin Barbecue. Baldwin Barbecue is 100 years old this year.
Really?
And I put some pictures on Facebook last night and some information about Baldwin Barbecue. But I've had about 3 locations in town, but they started in Barren Plains.
So where are they now?
They are on Central. You go turn on Central at Ace Hardware, and right past Ace, they're on the right next to
okay.
it.
They're right there next to Ace. That's Baldwin? Okay.
Yeah.
So they're there by Larry's.
Right.
Is that the same one?
They're between Larry's and Ace Hardware.
Yeah, I just knew there's, again, not extremely observant. I know I've lived here since 1992, but things just kind of, escape me.
Before that, they were down on Memorial Boulevard, right next to Wendy's down there.
Okay.
Before that, they were out on South Main. If you're going out on South Main, you can see a little white building sitting on the street. That used to be a dairy dip or something. But behind it is another white building. Is where Baldwin's came from, Barren Plains to there.
Wasn't that dairy place where y'all used to go get ice cream as kiddos?
I don't know I don't remember the name of it, but it's like a Dairy Queen. It's built much like the first Dairy Queen we had, but it had another name. It really wasn't a franchise.
So is the Baldwin family still the owners of Baldwin Barbecue?
Yep, still owners.
Really? Okay, that's
J.I. Baldwin started it.
Okay.
Jules Irwin Baldwin in Barren Plains.
Okay, that's cool.
And they had a little in Barren Plains, and we can, if we have time, we'll talk about Barren Plains. It was very unique in its time. It was established in 1830, but they've had blacksmiths, doctors, lumber yards, everything in Barren Plains over a period of time. First post office is 1840 there in Barren Plains, so it's an old town. But Baldwins, they lived in Barren Plains area, several Baldwins, and they got started in a little building there selling barbecue. Then they had the idea to move to town, so they had a horse-drawn wagon, and they would put the barbecue in a pot and keep it warm with hot bricks, under the pot until they could come to town to sell it. Now, the story goes, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard it so many times, is that when they would sell the barbecue, the horse would stand there and the wagon behind it, and when somebody gave me on the internet last night the name of the man who sold the barbecue there. Barbecue's sort of greasy, you know, when he get the barbecue on the buns or bread, they put it on bread, their hands would be greasy, so he'd walk around and wipe his hand on the horse's tail. I don't know if that's true or not. The Baldwins say it is, but, you know, who knows?
Funny.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, I did want to mention that because
Health codes were a little different back then, y'all. You know,
I said on the internet last night, I said, you know, so few people that have eaten at all 1, 2, 3 places that they ought to give a free barbecue sandwich to whoever has eaten at all 3 places.
All 3 that's still around.
They have a sauce that they've had since the beginning. You know, it's the
a
same.
special sauce.
Yeah, there's people who have, you know, barbecue is sort of crazy. People will travel for miles and from other states to get certain barbecues. I remember there was Richard Jones, who had a barbecue place out on 431 South, right before you go down to the county line there at the bridge. He was on the right, and he had a little bitty house there that he operated out of, and it's still standing there.
Yep.
But everybody would travel for miles to come get Richard Jones barbecue.
I think that's who did our barbecue for our Cardinal Roofing cookout, because we did a cookout.
He's been dead for a while.
Yeah, but we did a cookout for about 10 years, and I'm kind of thinking that's where we got our barbecue, because I'd get the barbecue and I'd get it and we'd pull it, and because I grew up, you know, on barbecue. So barbecue's never really been a thing for me because it's kind of like catfish. I grew up with
I don't
catfish
eat a lot of it.
I got sick of catfish.
Yeah.
I got kind of tired of barbecue. But now, so I'm not one that frequents barbecue restaurants at all. It's, you know, I got tired of it because I grew up on a hog farm.
My wife's father was a commercial fisherman, and she said we ate fish at every meal.
Well, see, you get tired.
Don't want any more.
Yeah, see, and that's what happened with us. We had catfish all the time, and you just get tired of it after a while. But nonetheless, I do appreciate really good barbecue, and I need to get in there. I think I've had Baldwin's a few times. I mean, I've been here for a long time, but
they have great cherry cobbler and blackberry cobbler. Ooh, I have to stay away from that.
Cobbler now.
But I will say there was another location when they first moved to town, and it was a vacant lot, and it was located near where Eccles. You remember where Eccles was on the corner across from the post office?
Yes.
And Jackson Sales, which is no longer, I guess, behind it. It was a vacant lot there, and they came to town and operated out of that vacant lot.
Okay.
After the wagon deal, I guess. So we're not counting that as the 3 locations. But anyway, not many companies are 100 years old.
That's just it. That is absolutely.
The one I own, Henry and Bell Incorporated, I had that corporation. It was formed in 1843 or 1842. But I've discontinued that. But Austin and Bell is an offshoot of that.
Okay.
So they can count that as being over 100 years old, over 150 actually.
Austin and Bell,
yeah.
Okay. I knew they'd been around a long time.
That was, Mr. Bell owned Henry and Bell, was part of it.
Okay. So you have,
it's tied in.
When you talk about businesses that have been around a long time, so Baldwin's, and then of course Doris Billing, and the funeral home. Is there any others off the top of your head that you think are
Farmers Bank is over 100 years old, but not around. From here, but they've been here quite a while. I don't know of any other. It may be.
If anybody knows of any, you can shoot them up in the comments or just message us later, because I'd be really curious to know,
I'd like to know.
Because that's the thing. What ends up happening, you may have a successful business, and then the children just don't want to run it.
Well, things change.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of businesses go away because there's no call for it anymore, and some develop like mom and pop operation stores. Back when I was a kid, they didn't have restaurants, except there was one on the corner of the Colonial Hotel on 5th and Main. That was a restaurant I remembered we could go to, but people didn't go regularly. It's just an occasional thing that you did. And there was a 10th Avenue Cafe. Now it's a repair place, I think. And then the one I remember is Golden Point down in Cedar Hill. There was a motel there and a little tower with a light on it, and they called it Golden Point Motel. And there was a lady there that moved here from Ohio that had great Sunday afternoon lunches. And I heard more people that had remembered it and gone to it. I know our family did. We would go. It wasn't that big a place. So I don't know how they all got there, but that was one of the few restaurants I remember. And then, of course, when Memorial Boulevard opened in '57, there's Wingo's down there, which Elvis Presley visited there one time coming through here. But anyway, there were restaurants popped up. You just didn't see them because it just wasn't. People ate at home.
It's just not something that we didn't eat out for things like that. That's not something we did very
now
often.
There's too many of them.
And now it blows my mind how much people eat out. And that's one of the things that we have conversations all the time. It's just not something that I do a lot. And my kiddos all the time. All the time. And I don't, it's different. Well, and it's like this. You talked about the mom and pop restaurants, and then you had all the chains coming in. So you don't have so much mom and pop stuff. It's the same thing we were talking about farming on the front end. You're having more of factory farm type things. Yeah. And when you talk about who's going to feed the world, it's going to be the factory farms because you've pushed out the little guys. And, right. I mean, that's just a fact. I'm from a farm family. I know what I'm talking about on this, but it gets to where we ceased raising hogs, and we did really well in the 70s. But when it became a factory farm, where the factories were picking them up, we couldn't make money on it. And my father and my brother had the wisdom to see it coming down the road and saying, okay, we need to get out of this and go into something different. And so they were always diversified. That's why they've been successful all these years. But,
I put something on Facebook here a week or two ago about survival. In nature, it's not the strongest, it's not the smartest that survive, but those animals who change are adaptable to change.
They adapt.
We're the same way here.
Yeah.
We have to change. You cannot sit.
Yeah.
It has to move.
It's like AI. People are like, "Oh, AI is terrible." I'm like, "You better learn to use it."
AI is scary to me.
It's not going anywhere. And the people who learn to master it are going to be the next innovators because they're going to use it to their advantage.
Right.
And Phil Valentine, if you've listened to this program very long, he was a dear, dear friend of mine and worked together with him for years. Talking about Charlie Maddows from Grand. We all worked together. And Phil used to always, people would get, well, we need to save this industry and do this. And he goes, well, why didn't somebody say that about the wagon wheel? And that was one of his classic comments is like, nobody tried to save the wagon wheel. And he's right. There's some things you just don't need any longer.
And, the older you get, the harder it is, but you have so many memories of how good it was back then, but actually... It wasn't.
Was it not? Yeah, exactly. And I get so everybody's like, life expectancy this. I got news for you. Life expectancy is getting longer and longer, whether it be whatever it is. My grandmother died at 62. I've already outlived my maternal grandmother who,
We're all outliving, most of us.
Yeah.
My parents lived in the near hundreds, so.
Yeah, so I may be 90s. Gone tomorrow, but, I don't know. Looking at it now, it seems like we're all living longer than we used to. And, I don't know. But anyway, we're talking history with my friend Bill Jones, and we've been talking about, we've talked about some things we haven't ever talked about. It was very interesting. I didn't realize Baldwin's was 100 years old. I guess it's on the sign. I noticed that, and I just didn't register.
The Cowboy Copas thing
Cowboy Copas thing is fascinating to me. What else have you got for us? And then let me pause and talk about Barry and Rebecca real quick. I've got oh my goodness. Let me pull this up on Barry Richards. He got surprised big time the other day. He was named, let's see here. What is it? The official. He was named to the Humanitarian of the Year. Realtors, the 2025 RCAR Humanitarian of the Year, and they surprised him. And I just think that is absolutely wonderful because I'm always bragging on all the things he does for the community, all the things he and Rebecca do for the community, and that's a testament to it. Right there, that they gave him this award. So they surprised him, and I thought that was wonderful. But I think that happened maybe on Friday. Yeah, I think it happened Friday or maybe Thursday night. He was not expecting this, but again, this is why I tell you, you can't get any better than working with the Richards. They're awesome people. They've been friends of mine now for many, many years. I first met them at the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival, and then when he realized we were going to start doing this show, he said, "Hey, I want to advertise," and they've been with us ever since because they know the value of just keeping their name out there. So you remember that when you're looking for something, any question in the real estate community, reach out to Barry and Rebecca Richards. They both came out of different careers, ended up in real estate as a passion. So when you have a passion for something, it's not just a job. It makes a difference. He was a marketing vice president for 17 years up in Nashville, and you bring that marketing experience to the table. That is such a game changer when it comes to videography, photography, walkthrough tours, drone footage, all of the things that he knows how to do, and they do so beautifully. They can help you out if you've got property to sell. So whether it be buying, selling, or if you want to be a realtor, reach out to Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. They specialize in Robertson County properties because they live up in Cross Plains. They have for over 30 years. But they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Like myself, they're originally from Kentucky, so they understand a lot more about Kentucky if you've ever lived there, if you have family still there, and you know they have an income tax. And if you live there and work in Tennessee, you still got to pay that income tax. What does that do to the your bottom line and how much home you can buy? Those are the questions that they're going to help you answer so you don't bite off more than you can chew. They're going to look at your budget and help you. If you've got property to sell, they're going to do a free market analysis so you make sure you know what kind of price to ask for your property. Reach out to them today. You can call them at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425 or 7424. Go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or BUY, or as Barry says, just Google them. Barry Richards, Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty, and let them know you turned sent ya. Are you going to the Tennessee Firearms Dinner tonight?
Yep.
Okay, that is going to be... the
be
gentleman, yeah, it is. My husband's wanting to go.
Over in Bellevue.
This is the
gun range over there. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he is the one. Let's see here. I think this is right. Bob Allen, director for training for Royal Range.
Be good for women to come to this one.
Yeah. So this is Bob Allen going to be there tonight at 6 p.m. and they'll have their wonderful potluck dinner. And you will enjoy that if you want to come by. And that's, again, doors open at 5:45, dinner's at 6, and you'll hear the program beginning at 6:30. So anyway, so that's going to be something you want to check out. Lee Marie also wants to invite you to come out to their sign language class on Thursday evenings. They started last week, but you can still join at the in the square. So we'll have more details on that as we move through the week. But again, Tennessee Firearms Association dinner tonight, and presentation is going to be a good one, and that's up there at what is the name of the place?
It was a bookstore, a Christian bookstore now, but it used to be Randolph and House Company.
What are you
building?
Are you talking about the
in the square?
Oh, no, I'm talking about where they have the Tennessee Firearms Association.
That's at the VFW in Greenbrier.
I couldn't get it out. It's at the VFW, and it's right there in Greenbrier on the right, and they've renovated it and got the mural.
Oh, yeah, it's got some
beautiful. It's beautiful painting.
Portraits, but what do they call them? On the outside, inside, murals on the outside and inside.
It's incredible. They've done such a beautiful job, and it's at the VFW, yes. So where are we heading next? I've got my ads out of the way. It's all now. Here we go.
I was planning on talking about Barren Plains, but I think I'll skip that and make that another time.
What else have you got?
Here's one unique, is Orlando.
Oh my goodness. We had a big conversation about Orlando last week. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Well, they're about to get
back
dissolved.
In the 1980s. We would have furniture markets down in Atlanta.
Okay.
We'd go to wholesale furniture markets because I had a furniture store. Phil Henry from Cross Plains and myself would go, and one night we decided we just want to walk down Peachtree Street and just see what's going on. There's a lot of life down there, and we walked past this building, which was I guess a bar or something. I don't know what it was, but had a sign on the outside of Mark Denning, and Phil said, I know a Mark Denning in Orlando. And I said, well, he said he's singing here. And we went in there, and there he was, singing Teen Angel.
Oh,
that
wow.
was his big hit he came out with. It was in the #1 Billboard, as the #1 song on the Billboard. And it was called Teen Angel. His sister Jean wrote it for him, and he sang it. But the so interesting about the Dennings, there were 3 Denning sisters that were very popular in the 1940s, singing country music stuff and other things.
Okay.
They were on, I think they were on Ed Sullivan's show or something. They were on the early TV things, but everybody knew them. But they were from Orlando. And
Interesting.
that's so interesting because they moved here from Oklahoma when they were young. Their parents came here, and they lived on the farm. And Mark Denning really didn't want to get in the music business. He wanted to stay on the farm. But MGM Records signed him after this song, Teen Angel. And it's about a teen that was had his girlfriend's ring or something.
Killed in a car accident.
Yeah,
that's one. Even though it's before my time, I do remember the lyrics of that because it's one of those heart wrenching.
Yeah, that's
things.
what made it so popular, I guess, with teenagers. And this, this is back in 93 or something. 63 or something like that.
It was something though that. It stayed around because it had that ballad, that tragic ballad. Of
there were several ballad singers back then that were very popular.
Right.
One was a Vietnam Green Beret, and he sang about Green Berets. It was very popular. But anyway, the Denning family, there was a bunch of them. I think 5 sisters and 3 brothers of Mark. And 2 of the sisters that were in these Denning sister singing group were twins. And I have the names of those girls and the third one. But they traveled around all over the place singing and putting on shows. And this Mark Denning was doing that also. So we saw his name. We heard him singing Teen Angel. We walked in, sat down, and listened to him. And when he got through, we went up to him. And Phil, he knew Phil.
Right.
Because the Henrys are generations there in Cross Plains.
Interesting.
So we had an interesting conversation, and I thought, here we are in Atlanta, run into somebody from Orlando, of all places.
That's fascinating.
Then there was another Denning woman who she was executive director of the CMA.
Okay.
She's from Orlando. Okay. And she grew up wanting to be a basketball coach.
Oh, fun.
And she married a man named Walker, who was executive director of WKDA in Nashville radio. And she ended up being the head of CMA, and she developed the first country music museum. And she was the first director of CMA. She had a lot of credits to her. She died. But she was a Denning from Orlando. And those Dennings really made a mark. In the world, from a little bitty town called, and there's no other place I know of named Orlando. That's a very unusual name. I don't know where that came from. I don't think anybody does, actually. Maybe they do. I don't know. But it was so interesting that from our little country county and little country town of Orlando, which if you blink when you drive through there, you'll miss the building. But they were singers. And, of course, Mark kept on trying. He came out with several records. His voice, and I've still, you can get it on the internet, on YouTube, sounds like Roy Orbison. In fact, he made a record with the same song Roy Orbison was singing.
The Mark Denning.
Yeah.
I'm looking up some of his hits and stuff.
Come Back to Me, My Love.
Yeah. The Teen Angel's the one that stands out when you said Teen Angel, I thought, well, I'm familiar with that song.
Yeah, most everybody is anything, So they graduated from East Robson High School.
Really?
Isn't that something?
That is something. That is interesing.
And then
if that were my school, since I do audio and video production, I'd be doing stories on that.
Yeah.
And maybe just because it's Greenbrier, so we can't do anything about other schools because you
remember Hee Haw?
Oh, of course.
Well, Dolores, his sister, was a backup singer on Hee Haw.
Well, we've got the one of the guys from Ridge Top Ramblers was played in the on Hee Haw.
Yeah.
And-
You told me that before.
Yeah,
I think.
and he talked about how the Hee Haw honeys would flirt with him, and I'm not going to tell him more. He'll get me, but yeah,
Always like
he was a young-
junior samples.
he was
on Hee Haw.
he was a young guy, and but the Hee Haw honeys were quite flirtatious with him. You mentioned something about the name Orlinda and where it came from. I just was curious. It says in the 1960s they changed it to Orlinda when the town sought a post office, moving away from its original
1960
name.
or 1860?
It says 1960.
That's not right.
Really? Well, this is
Is that AI? Yeah.
Well, but it's saying that it was originally called Crocker's Crossroads.
Well, Crocker Store was there. Yeah, it probably. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Crocker, as you go into Orlando from Springfield, Crocker Store is on the right. Anyway, yeah.
Because they said that because they were when they became incorporated is when they brought on the name Orlinda, and the incorporation was in '65. Is that
They
right?
may have incorporated then, but it's been around a long time.
The name Orlinda.
I'll have to do some
Okay.
research on that.
Okay, let's see. Potential meaning. No, it's just a combination. It doesn't really. That'd be really. Anybody know the origins of the name Orlinda? That would be
Sounds like
quite
an Indian
fascinating.
word, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's quite fascinating.
There was a man there that had a filling station, if you go through Orlando on the left, named Jack Adams.
Okay.
His daughter sells real estate here, Jackie Adams, I think. But anyway, back then, people would sit around filling stations carving with a knife and a piece of wood and carving and telling stories, type thing. So they did that there. So one of the guys decided he wanted a new truck. And so he came to Springfield to Will Summers at Summers Motor Company and bought him a new Ford truck. He was really proud of it. And he brought it back to all his buddies at Jack Adams service station and parked it. And they were talking about it and all this, So one of them got the idea, when he comes back next time, let's put a little oil under the truck. So he'd come back the next day, and they're all sitting around, and one of them snuck around and put a puddle of oil under it. So they all sitting there, and one of them says, it looks like that truck's leaking. And they go over, they move the truck, and there's a puddle of oil there. The man said, I'm going right back to Will Summers. I can't have this on a brand new truck leaking oil. So he takes it back to Summers Motor Company, and they do a thorough check. They don't find a leak anywhere. So he comes back, next day, parks there, and they snuck around, put another puddle of oil under it. And then they pointed out to him, look, that oil's leaking. I have the man's name, but I don't want to list it. But he goes back to Summers. He's mad. He's telling Summers off, Will Summers, that you're not taking care of my truck. It's leaking oil, and you all won't do anything about it. And he says, well, where are you seeing this oil? He said, well, my group of buddies at Jack Adams filling station, we sit together, and they'll see it under there. He said, I know Jack Adams. He calls Jack Adams and said, I know what you're up to. He said, stop doing this.
Oh, my.
You're running my customers away.
That's too funny.
So, little filling stations and places back then, barbecue place, people would sit around and talk. And in the little country stores, the same way, all the little country stores, and in Barren Plains, we'll talk about another time, had several. And Ralph Holman had a store, and in the back, he had one of these crank telephones, on the wall. It wasn't hooked up to anything. He just bought one and hung it back there and thought, that's neat. Well, this guy came in one time, and he said, can I borrow your phone? And he didn't have a phone there. He said, can I borrow your phone and make a call? I really need to make a call. He said, yeah. He said, it's back there on the wall, but, the operator's hard of hearing. You're going to have to shout. To get her, to tell her the number you want. So they're all giggling, This guy goes in the back, and he's ringing that thing, and he's, hello, and he gets louder and louder trying to get the operator, and of course there's nobody there.
There's nothing connected.
So he finally gives up, and he comes back, and Mr. Ralph says, well, how'd it go? And he said, that operator's really hard of hearing, but I think I got it through to her.
Oh, how funny. How funny.
But, people, I don't think they're as humorous as they once were, because people are more with each other now. Now we're on the internet, and we're on our cell phones and our watches, and that you just become private, individuals and not with groups. And it's going to hurt us in the long run.
I believe so too.
Because people with personalities, like, Carney Bell, for instance, he was around all over the place. And, you around him and you learn things that he was cutting up and pulling tricks and all. And he used to dress up as a guy called Purvis, and I was a member of the Barren Plains Men Club one time. Women fixed a meal and the men would eat, and, I don't know, it didn't have programs or anything, it just met. I don't know why I was out there, but anyway, I was out there one night. Carney comes dressed up as this old man called Purvis. He called himself Purvis. You wouldn't recognize him. And he came in and sat down and asked if he could have a meal. Well, they brought him one, so there was a man sitting there, and Carney would scoot up next to him, and the other man, he'd scoot over, and then Carney would scoot over. And they
didn't have any idea.
They didn't know. I knew who he was, but it was so funny watching. They didn't want him. They wanted to be nice to him, but didn't want anything to do with him.
He's getting a little too close for comfort.
And one last story about him. He went down to Springfield Drugs once, and Fred Harris Jr. owned the drugstore. So Carney's all dressed up, and Fred knew Carney, but he didn't recognize him. I was sitting there at a stool, and I knew who he was. So he goes over to the side of the counter where the toothpaste and toothbrushes were, and Mr. Harris comes over, "Can I help you?" He said, I want to buy a toothbrush. And I never had one. So Mr. Harris is showing him toothbrushes. Now, you need to get this soft one and not this hard one. And he said, "Well, how do you do that? How do you put something on it?" So he gets toothpaste out, puts it on there, and then Carney says to him, "Would you do it for me?" And Mr. Fred said, "No, I won't do that." So there's a lot of funny things.
When did he finally realize he was being?
No, he never knew it.
He never knew it was.
No.
Oh my goodness!
Carney was all over town doing that stuff, and nobody recognized him except me.
That's hysterical. Because you've seen.
You mentioned people flying over, gathering. Carney flew over a football game at Springfield one night, real low. He got in a lot of trouble. If his wife hadn't have been an admiral, he would court-martial probably. But anyway, that was Carney Bell.
That's funny.
I think we've used up our hour.
We've used up our time. This has been fun. We learned some new stuff today. And guys, this gentleman, he's a lot of fun.
We'll do Barren Plains next time.
Were you going to be speaking anywhere anytime soon? Like, I know you do historical events and things like that.
Not that I
Anything
know
on
of.
your calendar at the moment? You got to get through this election on May 5th. So
yeah, I'm really tied up.
Until then, of course. Yeah. But well, good luck with that. And let's see. This is, I think the election will be passed by the time you're back in here for history.
Right, it will be.
But you'll probably be in between now and then because he gets that phone call or text at 5 a.m. going, "Hey, Bill, my guest is canceled. They're sick. Can you come in?"
Yeah.
And he always, because he lives around the corner. I live 2 miles away. So
you and I can talk.
Yes, we can, and it's fun, and I enjoy it. And I hope you guys do too. Tomorrow, I appreciate you, Bill. And tomorrow we will have Dr. Danny Weeks will be in. They've got school board meeting tonight, so we'll get ready to hear from our director of schools, Dr. Danny Weeks, joining us tomorrow right here on 1100 WSGI. God bless you. Have a great day.